Use more traditional approaches like Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa or Iti Piso Bhagava Araham Samma Sambuddho and so on. Perhaps you have a favorite image of the Buddha. You can also use that. Or if you think about the Buddha as the ultimate compassionate being, you can bring that compassion into your mind and use that as a stand-in for the Buddha. So we will focus on bringing the Buddha to mind, using these chants or images or noble qualities. And they're just stand-ins for the Buddha. So we don't want to get too stuck on them. It doesn't have to be a perfect chanting or perfectly understand what the chanting is. It doesn't have to be a perfect picture of the Buddha. It doesn't have to be, the perfect feeling of loving kindness and compassion. But in whichever way that you connect with the Buddha, bring that to your mind. And for the next few minutes, let's sit with the Buddha, sitting together with the Buddha in our hearts and in our minds. Just like other meditations, if your mind wanders, just gently bring it back to the Buddha. If at any time you feel uncomfortable, please take care of yourself. Open your eyes or walk or do whatever you need to take care of yourself. So we will continue with focusing on the Buddha, his noble qualities, for the rest of the meditation. So now that your mind is calm, body is relaxed, you can bless yourself with the power of your own calm mind by the great wisdom and compassion of the Supreme Buddha, truthfulness of his teachings, Dhamma, noble qualities of his perfect disciples, Mahasangha. May you be well, happy, comfortable, peaceful. Sabitio Vivanjantu Sabero Vinasatu Mate Bhavantwantera Yo Sukhi Diga Yuko Bhava Bhavetu Sabbe Mangelan Rakantu Sabbe Devata Sabbe Buddha Nubhavene Sabbe Dhamma Nubhavene Sabbe Sangha Nubhavene Sada Soti Bhavantu Ti.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Hello, Bhante.
Hello again.
Hi. Welcome back to Sydney.
Thank
So
you.
wonderful to see you again in person.
So happy to be back here again with you all.
Yeah. Do you want to just push on with the session or do a bit of introduction?
Maybe a short version.
Short introduction? Okay, sure. So we'll do a bit of introductions about the session today. Actually, the meditation that we just did is a great introduction to what we'll be talking about today, which is Buddhanusati, recollecting the Buddha across time and tradition. So tonight we are honored to have Bhante Sanathavihari, a Mexican-American Theravada teacher visiting from the United States. Bhante is affiliated with the Sarah Chandra Buddha Center in North Hollywood and is a director of Casa de Bhavana, an initiative dedicated to sharing the Dharma with the Spanish-speaking world. Bhante's journey is both inspiring and diverse. A U.S. Air Force veteran who served for 9 years, including 3 deployments to Afghanistan, he embraced monastic life at the age of 30 in the Theravada tradition. He received higher ordination in Sri Lanka and has since been a beacon of wisdom and compassion, utilizing digital platforms to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha.
That's probably good. Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Yes, and when I saw the topic, it was so interesting because the topic said you'll be talking about the recollection of the Buddha as observed in the Vietnamese Pure Land tradition through the recitation of A Di Đà Phật.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to how this devotional practice fosters samādhi and evolution in the early Buddhist teachings as well to contemporary expressions in the Vietnamese teaching. Thank you, Bhante.
Yes. One of the first things that I encountered just going to the Sri Lankan Vihara and being there as a preceptor, preparing to take novice ordination, and during my first years as a novice was the amount of saddha, which is faith. I like to use faith that builds devotion for the practice. It was so powerful, actually. I saw that whether it was scorching hot or pouring rain or freezing, people would show up to respect the Buddha. People would show up for the chanting. People would show up to do a Bodhi Puja. People would take the day off work. People would, not take advantage of a beautiful, summer day in sunny California to go to the beach and to come do these things, to pay respect to the Buddha, to venerate the Buddha. And at first I was quite resistant from my Catholic upbringing, and then later my kind of more speculative, materialistic, agnostic kind of perspective. But every day, especially once I became a novice monk, we would chant this chanting called the Chaturaraka, the 4 protective meditations. And the first one is Buddhanusati, right? Bringing the Buddha to mind, recollecting the Buddha, contemplating the Buddha. Buddhanusati mettanche asubha maranasati. After the Buddha was Buddhanusati mettanche, loving kindness, then asubha, which are the body parts. They are not beautiful, not attractive. And then the last one was death. And then reading this, doing this like over and over and over and over and over again every day, and understanding what I'm reading too, right? Not just chanting it. Looking at what are we thinking about? What are we doing when we chant these things? What are we doing when we offer these things to the Buddha? Also reading the suttas, I realized, oh, this is right view actually.
Mm-hmm.
This has to do with cultivating right view, samādhi. Not only is samādhi the first step in the Noble Eightfold Path, but all the other practices lose their transcending aspect, their liberation aspect without right view. We know from the stories, there was great meditators during the time of the Buddha. Alara Kalama, Udaka Ramaputta. There were people who were practicing hardcore tapas, austerities, right? Like the giants during that time. And I'm sure there was people of very good moral conduct at that time. Very good people, very generous, like Anathapindika, very giving. But they were still in samsara. So sometimes as Buddhists, we think that meditation is the main thing, right? Through meditation, I will reach awakening. I like this one story from Zen, where there's a young monk meditating in the forest. The teacher comes, he looks at him, and he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, I'm meditating." "What for?" "To become enlightened, to reach nirvana." And the teacher picks up a rock, he gets his robe, starts rubbing it. And the student hears the noise and he's like, "What are you doing, teacher?" "Oh, I'm polishing this rock." "Why?" "Because I'm going to make it into a mirror." He's like, "That's ridiculous. By no amount of effort of polishing this rock will you ever make it into a mirror." And the teacher goes, "Oh, I'm not the foolish one. I'm not the silly one. You're the one. By no amount of sitting will you ever reach nirvana." Which is true. How long have you sat in meditation? How many retreats have you been to? Where's your nibbana? Hmm. We need samadhi, right view. When we think about the Buddha, it's not thinking about a person in time. That's not what we're really doing. I said, like in the meditation, the prompt, it's a stand-in, right? You can use the picture as a stand-in. You can use the words, the concepts as a stand-in. For what? For awakening. So Buddha is the clearest version of Bodhi, of awakening, of Nibbana, the purest version. So first we need to understand what is awakening, right? What is awakening? There's where thinking about the Buddha comes into play. If we understand who the Buddha is, we understand the Four Noble Truths. If we understand who the Buddha is, we understand Paticca Samuppada. If we understand who the Buddha is, we understand the Dhamma. The Buddha said that many times, right? Those who see the Dhamma see me, and those who see me see the Dhamma. There's no separation. What is the Dhamma? Four Noble Truths, Paticca Samuppada. Being fully awakened, being free from suffering, being in the highest happiness, Paramam Sukham. That is the Buddha. That is awakening. Sometimes it's too abstract. People tell me, right? Nirvana is too abstract. I was just talking with some people the other day. Oh, Nirvana, I can't think about it, right? No seeing, no smelling, no tasting. Like, it's not heaven. There's no self. What is this? What is this thing, right? It's probably too far for us. So in the beginning, we use the Buddha. The Buddha's the stand-in to help us understand Nibbana. The first step that we need to understand, first part of right view, is that not only is there suffering, but that it can be eliminated, that we can remove it, that we can overcome it perfectly, completely. Not until we really understand this, right? In the beginning, we have to believe. That's the first step. That's the devotion. We have to believe that there's hope, right? That this life and next life and this whole universe is not just suffering, but that we can be free. So we think about the Buddha. There was at some point some being who did this. If there wasn't, then there's no hope. There's no liberation without the Buddha. That's why I'm quite critical of people who remove all these transcendent aspects of the Buddha. Because it's not Buddha anymore. Buddha means all those other things that we might think are superstitious or don't make sense. That is what makes the Buddha the Buddha. If not, it's just, I like to say, some Asian, Indian Socrates with the orange toga, right? That's what it becomes. So, understanding this, I did a complete 180 on devotional practices and bowing and all this stuff, and seeing how people dedicate so much time to it. And then it changed my perspective about other traditions. Right? 108 bows to the Buddha. Wow, that's hardcore. What a waste of time. Why would he do that, right? But that's trying an attempt to understand the Buddha. Trying to understand right view. What is awakening? What does it mean to be free? What does it mean to be free from suffering? The example we have is the Buddha. So we analyze the Buddha, right? We try to become intimate with the Buddha. These are ways to become intimate with the Buddha. So the main kind of school that I did in the beginning, I felt, oh, they're just like only doing devotion. They're not, doing anything else. They're not studying, was like the Pure Land school. out of all the schools, right? Zen, sitting a lot.
Yeah.
In Vajrayana, they have a lot of philosophy. They focus on the analytical parts of, the Dhamma, also doing meditation, doing all these other things. But I'm like, oh, the Pure Land people, like, they're just like other people that I know. They go to the temple or to church and they just pray to Buddha and that's it. That's it. But one time, my teacher, Bhante Puniji, he says, we shouldn't ever look down on other people's practices. He says, we're all at different levels on this path. He's like, you like talking about the malls in Malaysia. He's like, I'll go to the mall in Malaysia. There's these big malls, he would say, and they have these big escalators. And, the people who are on the top floor are not looking down at the people at the bottom floor laughing at them. Or the person at the middle of the escalator is not looking at the person getting on, laughing at them. They understand that once they get on the escalator, eventually they'll reach the top. He goes, it's like that in the beginning. But you need to get on. How do we get on? Well, you need to have right view. You need to understand. You need to at least have confidence, right? Or faith in the beginning. And that starts with the Buddha. So then once I understood that, I was like, oh, wow, yes, I see these people, they're at this level of trying to understand right view. The first part of the Noble Eightfold Path. Sometimes we think because we memorize it, oh, what is right view? Oh, dukkha, right? Samudaya, nirodha, magga. Oh, I know right view now. Right? Four Noble Truths. Oh, I know right view now. We don't. It's obvious because we're suffering. So we don't know it. We memorize right view. That's different. Just like sometimes we chant, right? May all beings be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. We say it, but we don't really feel it, right? So it's like that. We study a lot. We think we know right view. We don't really know it. We just memorized it. But we have an example, the Buddha. Okay, so maybe conceptually I don't get it, but there's some other sort of knowledge. There's some other way of knowing things that's runs parallel with the cognitive conceptual part. And we can tap into that to be able to experientially touch right view. And that's what we do when we begin to show devotion towards the Buddha. That's what we're doing. We're really working on right view. So then I begin to see, like I said earlier, all these Pure Land practices of showing respect to the Buddha. And since I was more familiar with, Zen Buddhism, that's what I probably know most of all the Mahayana traditions, particularly like Rinzai and Zodo Zen within the Japanese tradition. And, I would come also, although they're not the main schools, it's mostly like the Tendai school in Japan who practices this practice of thinking about the Buddha, which is called Nembutsu in Japanese. Nem comes from Namo, and Butsu is the Buddha. Homage to the Buddha, venerating the Buddha, thinking about the Buddha. And then I thought about my friends who practice Nichiren Buddhism, and they chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. That's also their way of thinking about the Buddha, right? Or chanting Namo A Di Đà Phật in Vietnam. That's their way of thinking about the Buddha, right? Or Om Namo Padme Hum, right? I hope I got that correct. That's also a way of thinking about the Buddha. Everyone, right? Everyone is practicing Buddhanusati. Everyone's practicing trying to understand right view. So when I was in Vietnam, it's probably the Pure Land, the Buddhist Pure Land country in which I spent the most time. I was able to see people practicing this. I was able to ask questions. I was able to see it in the real world, not only read it in books or hear from others or how it's practiced in the West, but see how it's practiced in a country that mostly practices Pure Land Buddhism. And a lot of these people, they don't go to retreats like we do. Like They don't think about that. And if their retreats, they're nothing like the ones here that we have in the West that are very catered, very different type of retreat. And their retreats have a lot of chanting, right? A lot of devotion, a lot of bowing. It just seems like long ceremonies. But, seeing it from this light of like, oh, this whole time they're just practicing Buddhanusati. This whole time they're thinking about the Buddha's noble qualities, right? They're trying to understand in their own way. Just like Nibbana seems so far, sometimes even the Buddha seems very far. So we want to become more intimate with the Buddha. We want to bring the Buddha closer. As we bring the Buddha closer, Nibbana becomes closer. Our right view becomes closer. That's why in the meditation, bring Buddha into your mind, bring Buddha into your heart. And the main center figure in Pure Land Buddhism is not Gautama Buddha. It's not Sakyamuni Buddha. It's Amitabha Buddha. Amitabha means infinite light, right? The Buddha of infinite light. And it's said that when he was a bodhisattva, he made the firm determination that when I become a Sammasambuddha, right, I will create this paradise world where people can practice the ultimate meditation retreat center, right? The ultimate spa called Sukhavati, right? The place of happiness, where you can sit there in meditation and you don't have to worry about food. You don't have to worry about the person snoring next to you. You don't have to worry about the cushion, whether it's comfortable or not, whether your knees hurt, going to the toilet, any of that. All the stuff that bother you in your retreat, you don't have to worry about that. You'll go there and you'll practice. Although it will be for a long time. You'll be there for a long time until you purify your mind with the help of Amitabha Buddha in the Western paradise. So in the Pure Land school, what they do is they focus on thinking about and actually calling out to Amitabha Buddha in hopes that their minds become purified enough that they're able to be reborn there with the help of Amitabha's blessing too, right? One occasion, I heard my teacher Bhante Punnaji talk about this. He was giving some random talk, about I forget what. And he goes, some people criticize other Buddhists, and some people they criticize, Pure Land Buddhism, and they think they're incorrect. He's like, there's something to what they're saying. Mm-hmm. They haven't completely made it up. He's like, in Theravada too, we have a place, a heaven where you're reborn, and from there you reach Nibbana. We also have that. Mm-hmm. It's the place that the non-returner goes to. Right? What happens to a non-returner? They go to this higher heaven. They stay there until they finish purifying their mind, and from there they reach arahantship. So it's not completely, something radically different. And when you look at them doing all the praying and all the bowing, you're like, and you understand what I shared earlier about it's really a form of Buddhanusati, and that Buddhanusati is just a form of understanding what does it mean to be awakened. It means you're understanding how to get to awakening, the Four Noble Truths. Then it doesn't seem so far. Pure Land, Mahayana Buddhism doesn't seem so far. Mahayana Buddhism doesn't seem so far. Vajrayana Buddhism doesn't seem so far. And for people in Theravada circles who are more like modern thinkers, when they see the grandmas doing all the pujas, that doesn't seem so far either. Right? Everyone gets closer. We have so many misconceptions about other traditions, about other people's practices. And today my attempt is to clarify just this one misperception that we might have about other Buddhists, about other traditions. When we see so much devotion towards the Buddha, so much ritual, so much ceremony, so many images. Why do we need 10,000 Buddhas in one building? I think it's because we have infinite unskillful thoughts, We have so many bad thoughts, right? To keep it simple. that 10,000 Buddhas is actually not even enough, I think, for all the thoughts we have, all the bad thoughts that we have. It's interesting also how, throughout time, think about it, 2,500 years, throughout distance, from India all the way to Japan. It's really far, especially if you have to walk. It's going to be a far walk. Throughout schisms, Buddhists arguing and breaking up, right? With Buddhism going to different countries, adapting to different cultures, adapting to different languages. We have been able to retain the importance of the Buddha. We have been able to retain Buddhanusati. Right? Not all traditions practice jhana, not all traditions practice vipassana, not all traditions study suttas. Like, there's so many differences, right? We get caught up on all those differences. But everyone is doing this one thing. Every Buddhist is doing this one practice of Buddhanusati. Everyone. That is something that we all agree upon. Yeah, in our own way. Whether it's with a mala, chanting the mala, whether it's to a Buddha statue, whether it's actually thinking about the Buddha's qualities, right? Itipiso Bhagava. What is Bhagava? Thinking about that, right? Whatever way. We're all doing this one practice. We're all united in trying to understand the Buddha, trying to understand what it means to be awakened, to overcome all suffering, to reach the highest happiness, to attain Nibbana. I found that such a beautiful thing. When we're all so separated, we think we're so different. We're not different. We're not that different. Only in appearance, right? Like here in this room, from appearance, we look different, right? From all over the world, people, different skin colors, features, hair, everything, the clothes, everything very different. But we're all human, aren't we? Regardless of our differences, regardless even of internal differences like blood type and DNA, we're all human. It's like that too in the Dhamma. Even though we may not understand, the thing seems so far away. We're at the very core. That's what's there. And I think that, my message today is one of trying of unity within Buddhist. Another one is also to, especially in Western circles or in modern circles, to kind of promote more meditation on the Buddha. More meditation on the Buddha, I was kind of, I don't want to say forced, but it was part of my daily schedule that I had to do it, right? At the monastery, right? When I had to chant the 4 protections, when I had to chant Itipiso and all the things about the Buddha, that was part of the routine. I had to go through it, right? But some of us, if we're not put in that situation, we may never do it, right? We'll go to our favorite meditation. Oh, I really like metta. I really like, concentration. I really like insight. We go to whatever we like. But I think we're missing out on the foundation of Buddhism. Everything's built upon the Buddha, right? It's important for us, to understand who was the Buddha? What was the Buddha? In my Dhamma school every year in the fall time, I asked the kids, tell me the story of the Buddha. Very few times have I actually got the answer that I want, that I'm looking for. They start telling me about a prince who was born and, about him saving a bird, that geese, and like him fighting with his cousin. And then about this prince who marries a princess and he's forced to have a son. And all these things, right? But they don't say anything about the Sammasambuddha. They talk about Prince Siddhartha. They talk about the Bodhisattva. But they don't talk about the Buddha. Or they might just talk about under the Bodhi tree. But under the Bodhi tree is the first moment of the Buddha. So very little only. You only know that part, But the Buddha was around for a long time. And through understanding the Buddha's life, we can understand what to be awakened means. The Buddha had awakened behavior, awakened speech, awakened relationships. And all of that knowledge helps us understand what it means to be free from suffering. And the path that leads us to be free from suffering. We need to know who the Buddha was, the actual Buddha, not Prince Siddhartha. And one of the ways that we can do it is through this Buddhanusati, through this practice of, just thinking about the Buddha in whichever way that's useful for you, that's helpful for you. The title of today, for the titles of talks and stuff like that, we have to kind of, be very creative and make it enticing and things like that. And the reason I focused on Vietnam is because I just came from there, there's where I was at. I just really wanted to talk about Buddhanusati and the importance of this meditation, the impact it's had on my own life, how I understand it, how I view other Buddhists now, right? And how I think it's lacking in like kind of the circles that I'm usually in. We're so quick to want to get to the end, right? We see the Noble Eightfold Path and we see, oh, samasati, samadhi, like I want it now. But our foundation, our samadhi, our understanding what it means to be awakened is very weak. So if you find yourself in this position, then I would invite you to try, thinking about the Buddha, practicing Nembutsu, practicing reciting the name of the Buddha, thinking about the Buddha's noble qualities, bringing images to the Buddha, doing Buddha pujas, whatever you have to do, right? Reading about the Buddha's life to get you closer, and you'll get closer to right view. So actually, my talk today was about right view. My talk today is about Nibbana, about freedom from suffering. And one of the ways that we can, one of these tools that will support us there, and it's actually foundational practice. When we read the suttas, someone doesn't take refuge because they meditated a lot. Someone doesn't take refuge because they have perfect behavior. Someone doesn't become a Buddhist because they're practicing, good behavior and meditation and studying. In the suttas, over and over and over again, it talks about one has faith in the Tathagata. That's the first step. Once you have faith in the Tathagata, then comes Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Right? Then once you take refuge in the Buddha, guess what? Now you're a Buddhist. You're following the Buddha. You're going to him for protection. You're going to everything that he represents, everything that he manifested, the whole teaching. That's, for those of you who are interested in, becoming a Buddhist or being a Buddhist, you have to know who the Buddha is. You have to know what awakening means. You have to know what it means to be free from suffering. That is right view. That is how we have faith in the Tathagata. And that is why we go to the Buddha for refuge from suffering. So, when we say Buddham Saranam Gacchami, it's not because it sounds nice. It shouldn't be because of peer pressure, social peer pressure. Please don't ever do it if you don't really, you will feel it's authentic, right? There's no pressure here. We're not trying to convert anyone, right? Faith, devotion, conviction, reverence for the Buddha is an important practice. Just like I also have reverence and devotion for my teacher and the senior monks and my mother. So I know the most interesting things happen, right? Or where the rubber meets the road is in the Q&A. So I think now is a good time. I heard that, I like to leave 20 to 30 minutes for the Q&A because I'm not, like I said many times, I'm not sharing anything new. You can ask ChatGPT, right? All of you here, I know you have some understanding of Buddhism already. there's way better teachers than me that come to these events, right? So I'm not the best Dhamma preacher. I was all over the place right now when I was talking. Because I'm just talking from the heart. I'm not planning anything out. But now I feel now is where we can really engage with the Dhamma, have a discussion, go back and forth, and let's see where we end up. I would, prefer that we stay on topic, right? And I would prefer that, if you ask a question, you're really asking a question and not kind of looking for confirmation. Yeah. Let's look for clarity, or let's be curious instead of wanting to be like, well, am I right? Or am I wrong? Let's not think like that black and white. Let's think more about perhaps, perhaps. Because to be honest, only the awakened ones know. Only an Arya sitting here would know. But I'm not an Arya, so all we can do be like, what? Yeah, it kind of sounds good. Or in my experience, it seems like it's going in the right direction. Or other people that I've seen, other monks, it seems like they're going that way too. So instead of a place of certainty, looking for certainty, let's come from a place of exploration. Let's explore together when we have this Dhamma discussion, right? So let's just pretend that we're all in a circle and we're all sharing together instead of like, I'm the professor, right? And it's like, oh yeah, I want to know the answer for the exam, like there's no exam today. Okay, it's not going to be any exam in the future. So that's just kind of setting it up, for the Q&A now. Yes, so if friends online, you're welcome. In person, also welcome too.
Thank you, Bhante. I think definitely this heart-to-heart conversation cannot happen with ChatGPT. So we greatly appreciate your presence and speaking from the heart. We do have, so those in person, you're free to put your hand up or ask questions, and online, you can either unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can also post it in the chat like Leonie. So Leonie does have a question. Her question is, so the Buddha was born under a tree twice in one lifetime?
Yeah, different trees though. Different trees. Yeah, and it's interesting because is it in the Digha Nikaya where it talks about past Buddhas? It talks about like different trees that they also became awakened under. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's like this kind of ecological kind of like, like environmental connection between the awakened ones and their relationships to like trees and the environment. And I guess I'm not sure, I don't remember, but maybe there is also for their birth with different types of trees. Yeah. So yeah, trees are important in Buddhism and also important for our survival on this planet now. So yes, let's pay our respects also to the trees, those trees that supported the Buddha on his quest. Lovely.
Something.
Yes, Eugene.
Yeah, just wanted to like, thanks a lot for the talk, man. Yeah, I just haven't. I was just thinking. I kind of like for a long time, I sort of feel like I've been sort of kind of like stuck in a way that there's a lot of kind of like unwholesome habits, for example, that I have that I haven't really been able to shake, or haven't really been making sort of perhaps a lot of progress for a while. And it sort of got me thinking that with a lot of like the practices that we may be doing, like, is there like seems like there's like a danger that they just kind of become like a spot of like comfort. It just becomes like a comfortable religious thing that we do. And it becomes even easy to like even get tricked into thinking that, this is the right path. Whereas it could just be like a local comfortable spot, like a local minimum that one would just circling around. And yeah, and that's why I really like that symbol that you had. It's like polishing a rock to try to make it into a mirror. and that many things could, I guess, be like that. So I was just thinking, like, what do you think? Like, how do we break out of that countless spot?
Let's think about that story again, right? About that one. What helped that monk that was meditating? What helped? The teacher, right? The teacher. Remember the time when Ananda said, Bhante, it appears to me that half of the spiritual path consists of Kalyanamitta's good friends. And the Buddha said, no, it's the entire path. The path is not possible without good friends, right? So in those times when we feel stuck, it's time to look to our friends. It's time to look to our fellow practitioners to support us, to share, their own journeys. They don't have to give you a direct advice about your practice, but you see how they live the practice, their experience, and it might give you some pointers on how to advance on your precepts or your meditation or your studying when we feel stuck. And I have to admit, one of the biggest hindrances in my meditation are those first few minutes of when I sit in meditation and I feel so comfortable. Because it's tempting to stay there. I want to stay in that comfort. And in the morning, it's even more dangerous because if I stay in that comfort zone, I start getting sleepy. But I want to stay there. I have to be honest. I want to stay there. So we have to find ways to move beyond comfort. We have to find ways to move on, even being content with certain practices that don't reach the goal. I mean, the Buddha says that to the monks. He kind of scolds them, the ones who satisfy only for the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, anything besides awakening. He says, no, like, don't be satisfied with that. Even though the Buddha talks about contentment all the time, like, don't sell yourself short. Like, these are low-hanging fruit. Don't settle for that. I think for each one of us, it's a little, we're all such dynamic beings. It's different. Everyone has a different experience. But I think just like how you shared today, recognizing that, and then just trying other things. And hopefully, you get a good friend like that Zen master teacher he comes to you and goes, hey, Eugene, you're not going to make that into a mirror. You're not going to make that into a mirror. And hopefully it's done with skillful speech too, right? So you're more receptive and you're willing to do it. Or maybe you can be that teacher for someone too, right? If you see someone struggling like that, and you can tell them at the right time, right place, if it's for their benefit, that they can't reach awakening by just whatever they're doing, and help them get unstuck. But I think it's just about what I said, trying these things out. I don't have any particular remedy for it. I'm in many ways and in the same boat as you are. So if I figure it out, I'll come let you know.
Thank you.
Yes, Rowena?
Ask a question about faith.
Yes.
Like what you said today sounds a little kind of very similar to Christian beliefs, and I feel that we always distinguished Buddhism from Christianity just on that basis, or it's not a faith-based religion. I kind of want to ask, if somebody is living according to the Dhamma, but they're not a Buddhist, let's say, they can still be. At some point I'm sure they'll get to Nirvana. But I guess along the way, they'll develop the faith. But you said, like, when we say Buddhanusati, that's kind of like the start, isn't it?
Yes.
So surely people can like live the Dhamma without necessarily being a Buddhist. My question.
So definitely people can live a good life. People can be moral. People can be good, right? People can be saintly, we can say, People can reach very advanced levels of meditation, as we saw, I said earlier, with Alama Kalama and Udaka Ramaputta. We know that Buddha himself tells us. There's cases in the suttas where, the Buddha talks about people going to heaven. Not all of them were necessarily Buddhist, although the Buddha does say it's very difficult for people who are not practicing the Eightfold Path to, be reborn in heaven. When he was there at that time, he said there was very few people from other religions in heaven. He didn't see many. So when we talk about like spirituality, like having a spiritual practice, being a good person and going to heaven, that's definitely accessible to everyone. But when we talk about Nibbana, that's something different. Right? That's something completely different. That's why I said earlier, like through no amount of meditation, through no amount of good deeds, just good karma, you can't buy your way into Nibbana by doing good things. Right? Even many Christian schools of philosophy say you can't buy your way into heaven. Right? By good deeds alone, you can't go to heaven. So it's known that through these things by themselves are not enough. There has to be something else. There has to be something else. And that's the right view. But how do we get to right view, How do we get to right view? The first part is to look at the example, right? Who do we have an example of right view? This is the Buddha, right? It's the Buddha. And this kind of distancing from faith that Buddhists have done in modern times was done purposefully by Buddhists themselves as a response to imperialism, right? And trying to keep their country Buddhist, right? They had to come up with some way to protect the Dhamma, and their way of doing it was by making it appear more like rational, reasonable, logical, because that's what the Westerners were saying when they arrived in Sri Lanka, when they arrived in Myanmar. They're saying, oh, we're the smart ones. We know what's real. You guys are practicing magic and superstition. Like, this is silly things that you're doing. And many of these groups, like the British, who were practicing a form of Protestant Christianity, they felt the same way about the Catholics. They're like, oh, the Catholics are just doing magic. They're praying. They think they can buy their way into heaven and things like that. And some of these kind of more Protestant Christians who were looking for another type of spirituality that was free from this devotional aspect, the superstitious aspect, looked to Buddhism. And that's where players from the Theosophical Society came in, and other people, even some of the first translators of the suttas and things like that, were part of that program of Western people looking for religion, looking for spirituality, but without the God, the Abrahamic God, right? With all of the things they thought were silly, like faith. Because we're rational, we're modern, we're scientific. We're looking for a scientific religion. Oh, Buddhism is a scientific religion, and you still hear monks say that to this day. But where's this, I haven't found any scientific evidence for any of the heavens, or for Nagas, or for Devas, or even for the first jhana. There's no, there's no real evidence for it, that it's really there. We take all these things like jhana, vipassana, and all these things on faith. Let's admit it. Let's be honest. It's on faith. We don't even know if the Buddha existed. To be honest, none of us really know. We're doing that all on faith. And if you keep analyzing, you'll see how many things you do on faith. But we feel uncomfortable with it. Right? We call it trust. We call it conviction. I understand there's something in the Western psyche that has been hurt. It feels betrayed because of what happened with religion in the West. They feel they can't trust it. Right? And then a lot of violence. And yes, we need to be careful. And we need to realize that we're hurt and that we're vulnerable. But let's also realize the ways that we mask it. The ways that we try to cope. Instead of doing real healing, we do superficial healing, like, oh, I'm not, it's not really a religion, it's a philosophy, it's a way of life, because we feel uncomfortable. Let's look inside if we have the privilege, if we have the resources and the support around us to see where that discomfort comes from. Why is this triggering me? Why do I feel uncomfortable with this? Right? And work on it. And then, if that seems to go away, and then, for some reason faith still doesn't make sense to you, then I think that's a better approach. Coming to a conclusion on whether faith is your path or not, whether that's good for you or not, done from a place of mental clarity instead of from a place of reacting, or it's uncomfortable for me, I don't like it. Or I don't want to be perceived as a dumb person or a superstitious person. I don't want to be perceived as a religious person. Because I work at the university, what will my colleagues think if they find out that I'm a religious person? What will the town say? What will the people say? So that's one of the obstacles to practicing Buddhanusati, right? This kind of, maybe you feel like other people might judge you. Maybe other Theravada Buddhists themselves, if you're a Theravada Buddhist here, I think many here, you might feel that by Westerners here, like, oh, why are you doing those rituals and ceremonies or that devotional stuff, You might feel uncomfortable when people see you in that way. So that's an obstacle to it too. But we should be curious to look inside and investigate and see, why is it so taboo? Why is it stigmatized to have faith? Why is faith a dirty word? Yeah. Some things to think about too, right?
Tim,
Yes, Michelle?
just because of what you were just talking
Yeah.
about, it made me think of a question I've had in mind for a long time, actually. And, many wars have been fought in the name of God for various religions.
Mhm.
Has anything similar ever happened in Buddhism?
I don't know if we can do a one for one, but there's definitely been, Buddhists have had empires, Buddhists have had wars,
Sure.
Buddhists have done many things, bad, horrible things.
Yeah.
Have they, waved the flag with the Buddha picture on it, marching into the battlefield? I can't think of any situation like that,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything in history where it's been that obvious,
Yeah.
But there is things that I've seen, like in the Mahavansa, when Sri Lanka was invaded, and the king was hesitant to fight back because it means you have to kill.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's another question.
So then, whoever in the story, it says that the monks at that time told them, like, don't worry because they're not Buddhist. Yeah. So then he went and he conquered, but then he came back. He didn't take over. Actually, he didn't take over southern India. He just it was a counterattack.
Okay.
And he freed Sri Lanka. Then he came back. But it was, there was like a religious a part of it. There was a part of it where Buddhist religion was used, right, to kind of push the war forward, right? And things like that happened during the time of the Japanese Empire in modern history, right? Where they come up with clever ways to manipulate Buddhism into serving violence.
Okay, yeah. Sure.
Right?
Humans, yeah.
Yeah, they say, well, there's only the 5 aggregates, there's only the elements. So when you cut someone's head off, it's only going through the elements. There's no self, so it's not killing anyone.
Way they twist.
So it's blameless,
To fit.
You can do that, or you can look at the rhetoric that's happening in like Myanmar, that has been happening against other ethnic minorities there, which leads to violence, right? So yes, I mean, Buddhist people have been violent. Buddhist people have gone to war.
Yeah.
Buddhist people have prosecuted people. I'm not aware of any time where it's been like so obvious, like crusades, that we had, like at that level.
I guess that's what I was sort of thinking of when I asked the question. But then, now that I come to think of it, well, of course, Buddhist people have done whatever humans do.
Yeah.
And then the other one was on killing, like when is killing okay? But that's kind of
that's a whole other
that's another talk. Yeah, so I won't answer that one. Yeah, thank you.
Nothing in the chat?
No, Eddie just said thanks, Bhante. Sleep earlier. I do have a question, Bhante. So I find that some people can practice reflections of the Buddha with right view, but it can also be practiced with wrong view, and
Mhm.
it can be quite harmful. So are you able to talk about what is the right way to practice it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I would say that the right way to practice it is by trying to understand the Buddha. That way you understand what Bodhi is. That way you understand what the Dhamma is. Not as some of the side effects that happen, like the comfort, right? Or blessings. There's a lot of comfort that comes from practicing Buddhanusati. Like even when I was sitting here and I felt very relaxed, I felt very comforted thinking about the Buddha. When I dream about the Buddha, it's like a paradise. I feel so good when I dream about the Buddha. It's so comforting. But that's not the point, that's just something that happens along the way. So if we take that, right, just like jhana, or we take anything for like, okay, now I'm comfortable here, I'm just going to settle for this, then it's wrong, right? The practice itself is not wrong, but your way of thinking about it, your view on it is wrong, right? Well, if you think, oh, if I do these many vows, Buddha's going to give me the new house that I want, I'm going to win the lottery, then it's wrong, because we cannot communicate with the Buddha, right? At least from the early Buddhist perspective, the Buddha himself said that once he attained Mahaparinibbana, no God, no human, he gives a long list, can communicate with the Buddha.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you think that you're like communicating with the Buddha, you can ask things, from the Buddha, and he'll give to you. And that's also
like wrong view.
Wrong view.
Yeah. So I always have this idea, it's not based on the sutta or anything, while we're on this topic, like this view that like once the Buddha or the Arhants become enlightened, then they become part of nature, and they actually can do a lot more to help people or beings in a very like big way, like not in a you have an aggregate way, but in a very like non-aggregate way. So when you say that they can't actually talk to you, it's like, oh, interesting, like they can't talk to you, but they may help us in a different way. I just like, I'm quite curious about.
There's where one of the philosophical, these debates and arguments happen between Theravada and Mahayana. Whether that's possible or not. Okay, but let's take the position where the Arahants and the Buddhas and Pacceka Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are accessible, like in the Mahayana tradition. Let's take that. What is the unique thing that they can offer us? Enlightenment, awakening, right? Like helping us reach enlightenment. That's the main thing, right? Not like getting the best score in your exam, right? Like those things are trivial. You don't go to them for that. Like, why would you go all the way to an enlightened being to ask for that? You should just study. That would be the right answer. Or ask one of the Lord, ask Sokka, and the gods from the Tavatimsa to see to heaven. Like, why are you going all the way up to the CEO? Ask your supervisor, to help you out. So even from that perspective, to me, it doesn't make sense, But to think about the Buddha all the time, like in the Pure Land, right? And calling his name and having that, because when you're thinking about the Buddha, you're not thinking about all the bad things. And this is a very Theravada position, because we find it in the first story of the Dhammapada. That young boy, when he's passing away, in the first story of the Dhammapada, he thinks about the Buddha. He's reborn in heaven. He comes back to tell his dad, I was reborn in heaven. He goes, you weren't even a religious person. You didn't do anything. I can't believe you. You might not even be my son. So then finally he gets confirmation from the Buddha. The Buddha goes, yes, it is true. Although you never let him out to do any spiritual practices, right? On the last moment of his life, I walked by and he took comfort in that. And he took refuge in the Buddha. And because of that wholesome thought, right? It's the wholesome thought that's the powerful thing. The Buddha was just the catalyst for that wholesome thought. And that in those moments of his life, he had a very pure mind. He was free, temporarily suppressing, like in jhana, all the hindrances. Therefore, he had a good rebirth. He was reborn in heaven. So, thinking about Amitabha Buddha being reborn in heaven, yes, I mean, mechanically, it's the same mechanics happening, right? Buddha's in your mind, then you're reborn in heaven. It's the same thing. So when we actually like look at the suttas, or we look at stories that are inspired from the suttas, like Jatakas and Dhammapada stories, etc., we see this kind of same thing working, right? This kind of same principle, like, oh, think about the Buddha, good things happen, or at least bad things don't happen when you're thinking about the Buddha, right? So even on that level, you're developing a wholesome state of mind. You're developing kusala kamma, mental, right? And that also, when you do good things, have good thoughts, also gives merit. So those are the blessings that you receive from the Buddha. They're not literally, Buddha's not like showering you, right? With blessings like this. But when you have Buddha in your mind, you don't have the bad, unwholesome states in your mind. You have the wholesome states in your mind. And those wholesome states in your mind are blessings. You're blessing yourself. Like I said in the chat, right? After this meditation, your body's calm, mind is calm, body's relaxed. You can bless yourself with the power of your own calm mind. That's what I told you.
Yeah.
Right? It's your own good actions, your mental actions that you did that are blessing you. I can't give you anything like that because it's your karma. I can't give you my karma. Right? So once we understand these principles, you know, we begin to see these practices in a different way. Instead of like dismissing them as like maybe not authentic or superstitious kind of practices. And then we can also practice them in according with right view, right? To your point. That's the right way to think about it instead of the other way. But I do think that if we think about the Buddha, even in the other way, we still get some benefits, you know, but it's just not like what we should be focusing on. Yeah.
And when you actually recall the quality of the Buddha, do you mind like sharing some of the qualities you recall, or I guess there's a lot of them, but it would be it'd be nice, yeah, if you can share some of the qualities that I guess inspire you or will help us to do this practice too.
So I think here's where it has to be tailored and personalized for every person, you know?
Okay, yeah.
For me, it's the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha, right? So the wisdom means that he is the Buddha. Like I believe that he is the Buddha, the Sammasambuddha, right? That he was completely free from suffering, that he attained liberation, the highest spiritual level. I focus on that. That is possible. Someone has done it. Like someone has done it. He did it, you know? I do that because then I take comfort and like, well, that means someone has done it. It means I can do it too, right? It is possible. It is possible. Right? It's like if you're sick and you have some disease and then the doctor tells you, you know, we've cured someone before. He hasn't told you yet, right? Imagine he hasn't told you that he can cure you, that he's going to give you treatment, but he goes, oh, you know, my previous client had this and we cured him. You're going to feel really good, you know, even though you don't know what's coming next, right? So it's that I get from thinking about the wisdom. Then there's the more sentimental part that I have about the Buddha, which is the compassion. And I'm like, oh, the Buddha cares about me. He loves me, you know, like he cares about all beings. He can't talk to me right now, but I believe that he had the power to see all beings, right? At that time, he was able to like see the past and see the future. Those are his visions, some of that he had, right? And one of the superpowers that he had was Mahakaruna Samapati, which is the attainment or the realization of great compassion. And it's like a psychic power where he can see beings. In addition to the other psychic power that he had where he saw beings at his time being reborn and passing away due to their karma. So he understood how beings work. And I think in that moment, he felt great compassion towards all beings. And every day he felt great compassion. I believe that's still out there, you know, in some way.
Yeah.
So when I think about the Buddha, that brings me a lot of comfort. And then sometimes just the image, I have a very, like, it's not detailed, but like a silhouette of the Buddha. And it just makes me feel safe. And it even comes into my dreams sometimes, you know, I use it. And sometimes if I'm scared, I'll bring it up in my dreams to like get over my nightmare and things like that. So that's like the compassionate part. That's the soft part, the sweet part of the Buddha. But those are like the two ways in which I practice. I don't really catch myself like doing the chanting, you know, but I know for some people it does work. And for some people, it's like a meditation technique. Like in Thailand, they'll chant like Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. And they'll use that as like their object for samādhi to kind of reach that concentration and one-pointedness, clarity of mind. So yeah, be curious and see what works for you. And I think all of us already connect some way with the Buddha to some degree. And it's just about leveraging that, you know, that relationship that we already have with that idea of the Buddha.
For your faith then, your faith that the Buddha was a real person, and he does have this wisdom and compassion, like where does that come from?
Reading the suttas.
Oh,
Actually,
okay. Okay.
When even before I became a monk and I read Bhikkhu Bodhi's book, in the Buddha's words, I think that's what it's called, right? And he has a collection of suttas, and I was reading it, and I've always loved, like, when I was a little kid, I used to love reading those R.L. Stein Goosebumps kind of thing, and all these other books. I could put myself in those stories, and that's what made those stories so scary, right? Because they're like scary books for kids. They're not really that scary, but I would put myself there, right? I'm reading it, and I'm like going through, and then I feel it. So when I read the suttas, the same thing happened, right? I'm like, oh, I'm sitting there with Mahamoggallana, Arhat Mahamoggallana. I'm sitting there with Arhat, Sariputta and all the other Arahants, right? Well, I'm sitting there with Patachara, or I'm sitting there with Kisagotami. I'm sitting, I would get into the story. And when I would do that, and when I was in that story, I would look around, and then I would see the Buddha, in my mind. I would see the Buddha, not perfectly, like a silhouette. And that's just a mind-made Buddha, it's not a real Buddha. It's just me in that story. But that story, I think, is what helped me connect, especially to that, as to talking about compassion, or more kind of like, sentimental or cozy feeling that I have of the Buddha, like getting to know about him in the stories. And that's why I was kind of telling all of you, like, you should know who the Buddha is, like read about his life, because that's what really helped me have that connection with the Buddha. Because if not, the Buddha is like someone you don't know. Like, how can you have faith and trust in someone you don't know? Even if you hear about their arguments, like, it's not the same for me. Like, I have to know the person, I have to trust them. And that's why the Buddha would even say, like, you have to follow the teacher for months. That's the only way you know, if you can trust the teacher.
Or years.
Yeah, or years, yeah. It's not just because, your good friend tells you to believe him, or because it's in a holy book, right? Kalama Sutta, like all these things. The best way is to experience for yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes I read the suttas and I'm like, did the Buddha really say that? Like, like some of the more, out of the whack ones. But yeah, I guess, like, the general, what you say, like in the general theme of the compassion, wisdom, and all the things that he does for beings does tie together. Yeah.
I don't feel like those are the literal words, because
Yeah.
it says that the Buddha talked the whole night, and we have like 5 pages.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It's true.
What I think is, like, the things that the Buddha most of the time like to teach from the gradual training. So I think all that gradual training that we get in the Digha Nikaya and the first suttas, where he goes through like the benefits of giving and morality and being reborn in heaven, like all of that, they don't put it, like you should already know that. So they give you the very unique teaching that was given to that person at that time in that situation. You should already know that the Buddha, like in every discourse, presents the gradual training. That should be a given already, right? And then I think maybe the Buddha uses a lot of examples. Maybe those things are taken out, and then it has to be made for a way that people can memorize it, right? So then I don't think the Buddha was like a musical, and he's just going around like chanting everywhere. No, I don't think it was like Mary Poppins Buddha. But the monks, compose the teachings in a certain way that they can be memorized, and it's easy to chant and all these kind of things. So if we think about it that way, then obviously they're not the literal words of the Buddha. Are they the true teachings of the Buddha? I think so. That's what's more important to me, right? Are they the true teachings of the Buddha? Is that really the picture of the Buddha, the statues? No, no one knows, I focus on what that's supposed to mean, not on the surface level. So I try to look beyond the writing. I try to look beyond the statue, right? I try to look beyond all these things and try to get to the other side. I think that's really the important, because all these other things that to me are tools, and we don't want to get stuck, like the old saying, right? Like at the finger pointing at the moon. Don't get stuck on the finger, like focus, look to the moon. Our online friends are very shy today.
Yeah. It's 8:30. I'm sorry, I took a lot of time with the question. It just keep popping in my head.
So I think we're this
8:30 today. If there's no other questions. Yeah.
Was there anyone on?
No, there's actually no one online, so yeah.
find the synchronicity really interesting because 2 days ago I wrote in my journal faith ? Because I had noticed recently that my sister speaks from this perspective of having a little bit more faith than I do, and I think I have fallen into that conditioning of being, I don't know, a bit, I guess, perceiving myself to be a bit more rational, in the sense that I think I've always thought, okay, if I try to have right view and right intention, then I should at least trust in the karmic unfolding of what comes from those two things. But I think as an average lay person, I still question my discernment and whether I am operating from right view and right intention. But I guess my question is, I'll just bring up the context of what my sister said. It was in the context of, this feels so layperson, but like when it comes to relationships or a job opportunity, she has a little bit more faith in being like something better is going to come. And the only way that I can rationalize that is if I have been feeling as though I'm applying myself with the right intention. Especially because I think we do have this cognitive bias that, for instance, let's say you've had a number of failed relationships, so your brain will think, is that my karma? Like, is it just going to continue that way? Like, what's going to make it change unless I change? But sometimes you do change, but those conditions haven't changed yet. I guess my question is, what does it look like to have faith as a layperson in those contexts when you're moving through? Do I have faith in what's next? Because I know for me, my conditioned response is to see everything as workable, and I keep working at it. And my sister goes, well, what if there's something better for you? Something happier. So I have that question.
Yeah, I think if we apply faith to like this theme, I have more doubts. To be honest, I'm not sure. The only thing that I feel confident in is that if I'm, doing good actions, that at some point they'll give their results. I mean, I have faith in that. That's all I really can, to be honest, like everything else, like, I don't know. Things can get worse, And that's one of the things that I was taught, when I was about to start my internship in community mental health as a psychotherapist. They're like, don't tell them things are going to get better. Don't tell them everything's going to be okay. Things can get a lot worse for the client really fast. Don't say that. So don't say that to yourself. I mean, we need hope. We do need hope. Hope is important. But hope should be something more, how can I say, like at a more cosmic level, at a more meaning level, instead of like tomorrow, today, if I do this, if I do that. Like it should be something more than that. Hope should be, I need to find a better word, but it's definitely, it shouldn't be like, well, I did a good job, so I should get a promotion, like have trust in that. Like, I don't think it's just going to work out, in most situations. Just have confidence in your practice. Like I've been doing good.
We're nearing the end of this session. I think that was a discussion on hope, which is so beautiful. But yeah, before we finish off, would you like to do a dedication of merit, Bhante? Yeah.
Think about, all the skillful, wholesome, good actions you've done. And let's dedicate these merits for our future awakening. By the power of this merit, may we be free from future company. We have good companions. Mame bala samagamo satam samagemo hotu yaveni patiya. Stay warm, everyone.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu. I want to say a big thank you to you for coming. It's lovely to have you in person with us again on the trip, like another trip back in Sydney. It's always lovely to hear from you because you come from really heartfelt perspective, and you're very raw and real with what you're saying. And I love the session today on reflection on the Buddha. It's not something I think about every day, but I should think about it more often, I think. And it made me realize, like personally, that maybe my faith is lacking as well. So it's always nice, like Eugene said, to know where your blind spots are. And thank you for being a lovely spiritual friend and teacher today for pointing that out for me. And I can see that from everyone here and online as well. They've benefited greatly from this talk and the meditation session as well. So we look forward to having you back again. I don't know if you'll be back for your trip now. If not, like this trip, then a future trip sometime. Yeah, thank you. And we have some notifications, virtual notifications. We've got a very special event tomorrow that Bhante is actually a part of too. It's a daytime fundraiser. It's called From the Woods to the Hood, a symphony across hemispheres. So it's a fundraising event. It will be from 1 p.m. to 4:30. It will be a lot of fun. We're gonna have music. We're gonna have auctions. We're gonna have lots of we're gonna have Bhante Sanathavihari there, and also brother Tenzo, who's lovely. They will both be speaking as well and having panel discussions. So it's going to be a really wonderful day. Looking forward to seeing you there. The location is at, let me just double check where that is. Jamoy. Oh.
Saturday.
Oh, Saturday.
yeah.
Oh, wait, tomorrow is not Saturday yet. Yeah, it's on Saturday. Not Friday. Yeah. Yes, it's on the Message Center website. Yeah, so it's wonderful. Okay, that is all. And we have regular events, as you all know. Mondays are Dharma talks in person in Bankstown and online. Wednesdays are our Dharma talks, like meditation sessions in person in Parramatta and online as well. And we have our Sundays, Santi Sundays, which will come in a month. It's the first Sunday of every month. Last Sunday of every month, so it'll be the end of June. Okay, thank you everyone. Sorry about the disconnection on my computer, but hope you have a lovely week and hope, yeah, everyone online in person have a lovely week.